Yeah. Okay. I think it has started right now. All right. So good morning, everyone, and good evening if you're not from India. My name is Dolcy Dhar, and I'm currently leading the healthcare AI stack at CellStrat. And we are going to be starting a series of webinars pretty soon. They will be starting in June. So, this webinar is sort of a setting stage for all of these upcoming modules that we will be going in depth in for AI in healthcare, specifically AI in healthcare. We will be exploring how we can have different techniques, what are the possible use cases, and what's happening basically. So we believe, at least I believe, that if medicine and artificial intelligence are added together, we can actually have a companion. You can say even a virtual companion who can actually help us get, improve our lives, our lifestyles. So let's get started. So actually, this presentation today is keeping in mind the medical professionals. So, a little bit of, taking through what artificial intelligence is for all the medical professionals who are present in this meeting. So, like we know, like most of the developers and most of the computer scientists already know that AI, machine learning, deep learning are nothing but, a framework, or can say a framework. So, based on certain discrete mathematical rules, which enable basically the machines to carry out complicated tasks, or carry out specific tasks. So if we look at traditional ML or the machine learning before ChatGPT was released, or before generative AI was introduced, we see individual models being trained on specific tasks. And right now when we look at large language modeling, they are so generalizable that they have like they can be applied across multiple tasks. But again, you have a trade off between accuracy. So yes, you eventually, if you have a very specific use case, and depending on the availability of models, the availability of data, and what the current literature states, you may not have to uh, fine tune a new model, or start a model from scratch. So anyway, uh, just this was just about some overview. So just to take you through what machine learning is, what AI is, what deep learning is. Now, uh, artificial intelligence was actually a field which went through so many summers and winters over the past 70 years. Like since the time, Alan Turing kind of defined the term, since then we have had ups and downs. So humankind, especially, like people, our community, or human beings, have been on and off with artificial intelligence, you can say. We keep patching up, breaking up, patching up. But I guess with the GPT coming into the picture, and the era of large language models being starting, you can see the global impact being shifted. In 2018, it was almost just $1 billion of input the AI in healthcare industry was, but by 2030, we are expecting it to be $188 billion industry, and that is a huge growth. So what you see is that so basically from 2018 to 2020, we see a very steady, or very dynamic and not so static growth, because of COVID. And how where during COVID, people were not venturing into newer technologies. People were not taking risks, right? So you see a dip there, but otherwise it has been steadily growing at approximately a 40% increment every year. So if you forget the figure 40%, and if you look at the look at the chart, you would understand that every year it's almost doubling. So from 2021 to 2024, every year it has almost doubled. So it started with 5, then it went 11, then it went 18. So maybe not exactly double, but by 2030 we are expecting a huge contribution of AI in healthcare, because many reasons why, of course. Because uh, because of introduction of artificial intelligence, first of all, our cost effectiveness has gone up. So we are able to save time, because they have LLMs have increased or decreased the amount taken for us to reach to conclusions, or process data, and process millions of data. You have to also understand that the amount of data that we are able to process in the same amount of in the the standard period of time has also gone up. So you can see that approximately 60 to 70% like jobs would see AI disruption. And according to McKinsey and Co. and even PwC and their reports, if you see, almost 30% of the people who are working today might not have a job in 2030, because those jobs won't exist. So the biggest threats are, call centers, all these repetitive tasks, industries like call centers or data entry jobs, and customer support. All of these jobs might be the most impacted, because AI automating most of their workflows. And as you can see, in 2024, after the recession layoffs, you don't see a lot of hiring in call centers. Although initially, like in the last few years trend, we did see, call center hiring a lot. So it is, when we study all of these figures, and when we talk about what AI is, what these technologies are, it becomes very important to understand that in 2024, us, whoever is there today, who's working in this community or who's intrigued by this community, has to understand that this is something which is going to happen. This is an opportunity, you can take it, or it is an inevitability, as you can see, that this will be happening because of the ease at which. So we see disrupted AI transformations. So we see transformation as in tech, we see transformation in handling data, we see transformation in scalability, but we don't see transformation in governance yet. So we see a lot of absence of regulations of AI, but trust me, that is inevitable. And as in more people will start adopting AI, more and more regulations and more policy making around artificial intelligence would be, entertained. And the negative impact healthcare industry has on AI, where data governance, data security, and all of those things are a big factor. I think eventually we'll see a sort of an acceptance within the healthcare community as well. Also, because AI has made sort of development of tasks very easy. Because initially, when we look at traditional computer science, you had to hard code those rules so that those algorithms could work. But right now, it's kind of like a black box technology, where the LLMs in itself would learn. So you don't exactly hard code the learning process, or we don't tell that, a ke baad b, like after a it will be b to the LLM, but we just feed data to the LLM and they kind of like pick it up. So moving on, why AI in healthcare, right? Why are we having this call, and why do we think that AI in healthcare would become $180 billion industry in the next 6 years? It's absolutely essential. So, five major parts. Now, AI, like I mentioned, has increased or exponentially increased our ability to, process data. Also, we didn't have data 20 years ago, but now we do. now we have a lot of computational data, and AI, with the advancements of chipsets, with the advancements of hardware, has made us process millions or billions of tokens, parameters in a few matter of some time. I wouldn't say minutes, hours, or days, because that clearly depends on the compute power that you're employing. But then again, accuracy has gone up because of this, because AI, we as human beings might not be able to see like 100 million MRI images, but if I ask my AI model, or any sort of model, any sort of deep learning network or artificial intelligence model, if I put it through 100 million MRI images, it will improve on its accuracy to correctly correctly perform the task that we have set it aside for. Now, the second part is precision medicine. So, when I say precision medicine, you have to understand that it's not just about generic medicine. So, if 10 people have common cold, all of those 10 people can go and eat crocin. Like, it's a very common pill in India, which is given for common cold. So crocin is something that you and me, we all can go and eat. But when it comes to a little higher level of complicated diseases, so when genetics is involved, when your history is involved, when your family is involved, how do you cater to? Suppose my genetic disorder, due to the expression of gene in a certain way, will only cause certain symptoms in me. So maybe say there are 10 symptoms in a disorder, and because of my body and because of my history, my birth and everything, my factors, only 5 of those 10 symptoms are visible. All right. But someone else who had a different history, who probably came from the other part of the country, out of those 10 out of those 10 symptoms, he or she might be displaying say 8 symptoms. So understanding from here, the second person may have a more severe disease, right? Because he or she is showcasing more symptoms, right? But now you have to understand the disease is same, but the severity is different. So the amount of medicine, or the medicine that would be effective for me, might fall short for the other person, given that he has more severe form of the disease. So what precision medicine can help us in is that we can train an AI model on a particular person's data, and it can actually help us, create more targeted, therapies. So either it can target to one person in itself, so a very rare genetic disorder or a genetic mutation which is not found anywhere else, so has to be taken at the individual level, or maybe at a disease level. So, precision medicine for different stages of disease. So, if you have an early stage Alzheimer's or dementia, you probably would have, a separate type of medication. But if you have a late stage dementia, you will have separate type of medication. Efficiency, yes, like I told you, if we have higher accuracy, we are able to, pass through 100 million images much faster. So, yes, it is highly efficient. Cost effective, so it is absolutely a very big factor. Money becomes a huge factor in healthcare, because monitoring people, monitoring patients through heavy machines like ICU bed, like ICU monitors, those saturation devices that you see, and basically vital sign monitoring and all of those are actually expensive machines, and a lot of year of research and development has gone into those machines. And hence right now, if you get admitted to an ICU, it is expensive, because it takes a lot of years even for the doctor to train, to kind of like give you the medicine or be able to make a call at that stage. So what would AI in healthcare do? this AI would actually be trained on a lot of data that is already been collected. So of course, in order to identify vital signs, a lot of companies who create these monitors, who create these machines, have captured data as part of clinical trials to kind of drive the research of those machines. So if we take AI models and train them over there, we get, we would be able to monitor an ICU bed at 1/10 of the cost that is currently required. So yes, it becomes immensely cost effective, especially for people who are not able to, afford traditional medicine in the same way. Or, uh, even think of going to a hospital or getting care, or even if and in also in the cases where they don't have access to, hospitals or care, like rural areas and stuff. And finally, 24/7 support. So we computer science, so when I was in healthcare, we used to see a trend in healthcare that, people would, they would answer your questions, but they would not share resources so easily, because resources in healthcare, especially medical textbooks, are very expensive, and a lot of issues go in copywriting and licensing and all of those. But computer science is opposite. So computer science, you have immense support. So machine learning AI models are primarily based on Python language. So Python has a huge community support. So if you are getting stuck somewhere in the middle of the night, you can always look up online and find relevant answers. So that also, kind of like speeds up the development. If anyone has any doubts, uh, this PPT was like kind of like prepared to keep in mind the healthcare professionals more. So if computer scientists have any doubts or any specific parts, you can just directly unmute yourself and ask me. Otherwise, I will look at the chat in a while.
So there was a question: are there examples of specific AI use case
Yes, definitely. So
within Indian context? I mean,
in Indian context. So I think healthcare context of use cases would probably, be same everywhere. And we will be diving deep. So I wanted to give an introduction of AI actually. So that's what, to just to set the stage for healthcare. So now we are diving deep into, specific use cases, what are the themes in healthcare, what would be the data, and what is happening right now. Until now, we were understanding what was the history and why importance and the significance. So you can see healthcare industry can be divided into four parts, right? The clinical part is about dealing with patients, diseases, doctors, nurses, hospitals, all of those things, counselors, clinics, etc. Even drug discovery, right? But there is administrative part as well. Hospital management systems, scheduling, tracking appointments, tracking follow-ups. So a lot of multi super specialty hospitals these days have their own internal apps that help them track their patients, their data, and everything. Documentation. Now, documentation can be of multiple types. One can be documentation in hospitals for patients. So, doctor writing reports of patients, writing history of patients. Another type of documentation could be the clinical trials that are conducted during the drug discovery phase, or any sort of R&D phase. Those, at that time also, extensive documentation is absolutely important, because that will be required to, kind of propagate that trial. And finally, our research documentation, like report writing, logging data, and making Excel files, collecting data, all of those things. Documenting that data would also come under documentation. And finally, governance. So governance would involve all policy making, ethics, compliance, and regulatory standards that have been set by apex bodies in different countries. So these are the themes of healthcare in the sense to give you an idea how and at what places can we think about AI. So AI can help us in clinical settings in, parsing through the medical data. Let's say reasoning that, if the medical data comes like this, then probably this disease would be. Acting like a counselor, like a virtual or help you in telemedicine. So a lot of places doctors are not readily available, but because of the advancement of 5G networks, you're able to have, video calls, which are great. So telemedicine has become very popular because a lot of use cases, a lot of medical, diseases do not exactly need to go to the hospital every time. So a lot of money and time is saved there. So as we go deeper, as we go further, I will be discussing more and more about individual use cases that we see in healthcare. But to set the stage even further, we'll talk about the data that we see, different kinds of data. So right now we see the themes of healthcare, what broad use cases can be, but depending on the data type that changes, our use cases can also change. So here are like the seven most common use cases that you find. So numerical data is nothing but your blood reports. So basically count of HB, count of red blood cells, count of WBCs, your any sort of count, any sort of concentration, or any sort of fluid testing. So urine cultures, urine analysis, any other analysis, hormonal analysis. So hormonal analysis and all will come under blood reports. All of these yes. Okay. So all of these blood reports would have some numbers to depict some concentration of that particular compound in our blood or in our urine anywhere. So that number can be estimated, right? So lot of times currently what medical professionals do, they have a threshold or a normal abnormal value set for a lot most of the things. So if the data is above that, we can classify it as a particular symptom, and if the data is below that, we can classify it as a particular abnormality, or like if it's normal or something like that. So in numerical representation or numerical data, we can apply a lot of traditional machine learning algorithms, like regression, classification. So all of these supervised learning methods can be applied here as well. Those will also do a pretty great job. And of course, if we kind of find a way to sequentially enter these reports, even large language models can handle this. Again, categorical data. So most of the people in CS might not know this. So there's something called encoding. Medical coding is a very common term that is seen. What happens is, you and me will be talking in layman's terms. So when I go to a doctor, I won't tell them scientific terms of my symptoms. I will only tell them I have headache. I will not even say headache. I would say head pain, and very weird words. Patients will use to describe their problems. Now, you and me can understand very easily that pain and ache are same. I'm sure large language models can also understand now, but initially we didn't have the computational capacity to understand diverse words, representing the same thing. So, and medical coding became a very huge thing where people were actually trained, did bachelor's in medical records, and then tagged, categorized individual symptoms, subjective abstract categories into particular codes according to the regulatory standards, and that coding has been followed everywhere. So based on those codings, our medical test results are also classified. So if certain values of certain parameters is above a threshold, they will be coded as one phase of the disease. If they're above another threshold, maybe another phase of the disease, and so forth and so on. Okay. Next would be your medical reports. So text is your history, patient history, clinical trial documentation. So we already have so many medical reports, so many patient histories. That documentation is already there. We can pass through that text to build, we can create automation of tasks, or even find relevant information, or for our data sets, for our use cases. Again, image and video. So these are multi-dimensional images, which are X-rays, CT, MRI, ultrasound, mostly DICOM format. So that is the format that you see for representing medical images in computers. These images can, again, we can apply, somewhat like computer vision here, using latest multimodal LLMs. Right now we don't have an LLM which has been trained on MRI of sorts, but yes, if we do train MRI ultrasound images, if we do train LLM models, or machine learning models on this, we can make a lot of inferences from the data very fast. So if you follow Google research or Microsoft research, they have been able to come up with open source pipelines, where if you enter your X-ray image, it will tell you whether you have pneumonia or not. And then there are other pipelines also, where you just feed your brain MRI, and it will segment. So it will segment a particular part of that brain MRI and give it to you. So this has become a lot easier because of artificial intelligence being able to parse huge amount of data. And also because hardware advancements. So it was parallel software. The reason why we had AI winters and summers all of the over the past 70 years was also because of this. So 10 years, maybe 10 years or so approximately, hardware advancements went on. People got really excited and optimistic. So they forgot about hardware, they focused primarily on software, and then they got stuck because hardware advancements was needed. So this went back and forth for like 70 years, and now we've reached a point where we've actually made a cut through advancement in both hardware and software. Again, just the other two modalities would be speech and signals. So speech would be, speech to text conversion would come into play, where you are capturing medical history patient when he walks into the doctor's office. If he's sharing something, we can capture it in speech to text. I'm really sorry, there's some involvement from that. Okay. And signal. Just guys, give me a moment. Okay. So yeah, finally, signals is something that we see. So signals are like all these devices like ECG, EMG monitors that we have in hospitals that actually collect information from medical, collect relevant information from your body, signals and everything. So let me just put a pause over here and see if there are any doubts on the chat. Okay. Okay. So AI can also be used to train humans, right? Example, surgery where handwork. Yes. So Anirvid, that's actually a great use case that have been coming up because of augmented reality, and other advancements in AI. People can now simulate uh, the entire surgery happening. uh, before the surgeon has to actually go and perform the surgery. You can actually simulate that in a sort of a holographic setting as well. And now you have specimens, or like you have prototypes also, on which you can perform the surgery, which have been tailor made for that particular surgery. So yes, training, education. So this is like an iterative process, right? You will see AI teaching humans, humans teaching AI, and it will go on and on and on. And this is how we have reached here. This is how we are able to, I'm able to add 16 slides to a AI in healthcare PPT, is because of, this iterative process going on for, so many times. Healthcare in AI compared to the West in China. So, Raghav, we are slow. I would say we are pretty not that slow, but yes, we will catch up. But we will catch up only because India will become the primary place to go for AI experts. So India will start amassing people, basically consolidating people who would be Gen AI or artificial intelligence experts eventually. So then we'll pick up the momentum. But right now, the reason why we are a little slow compared to China or the West is because uh, we are not just focusing on tech. We are focusing on many other socially critical issues, and many other things. So yeah, I would feel that we are yet to catch up, and Indian hospitals have not been very pro in accepting data, or setting up partnerships. So that bottleneck, that data will get leaked, and people would misuse medical data, that bottleneck is still there. So you have to understand that none of the foundational models like ChatGPT, or even you see like Gemini models, Google models, they are not Indian models, right? So if we partner up with these companies, we might, there is a chance, a possibility, a rare possibility, that we might let go of our data there. So still, medical institutions are not very okay with that. I hope I have answered your government can do a lot of things to help the case, Raghav. I really don't want to go into that. So yes, of course, governance and policy becomes the most important part. So I'll share, I'll go further in this, and I'll tell you that in the past 3 or 5 years of accepting AI by the global economy, you see that people are more interested in understanding numerical data. People are more interested in documenting histories. So like with these themes, if you see, you have more work, or accelerated work in clinical, administrative, and documentation. But you see very less, or very slow work in governance, because we still have a problem where people, the general population, don't exactly understand what AI is doing. And the general population is the one which decides the government, and the government is the one which decides the introduction of bills. So yeah, there is a huge gap there between the industry, the tech industry, and the government. But as we go further on this journey, we will find that governments would be forced to bring in regulatory standards. Like they will be forced to make big tech companies compliant on AI regulations, because eventually government won't be able to catch up, because everything would be on AI, and yet we don't see a lot of government procedures being handled by AI. So once that happens, the global acceptance, and that bottleneck of what if the AI is wrong, and that bottleneck will go off, because AI is still giving you 85% of accuracy in some cases, but human beings fail to provide even sometimes that kind of accuracy too. So we've done the data. So for the healthcare professionals here, we have been talking about artificial intelligence, generative AI. These are all huge words, right? But how do we understand whether we absolutely need this model, or we absolutely need this technology in our lives? So just to give you an overview, what are the possible things a foundational model can do? So you have to understand these are the basic things that a model can do. We have other functionalities that can be done on top of these. Okay. So the model will take in any kind of data. So we have different data types in healthcare, like we discussed, and it will be trained on that data. So model will automatically try to find patterns. We will define the scope of the patterns, but the model will automatically try to find patterns, learn patterns from the data, and then based on the learning it has obtained, if we ask it to do certain tasks, it conducts certain tasks in that way. So you have to also understand that if any problem is there in the data, the problem will creep in the tasks as well. So this is just a brief idea of what large language models do. It can follow instructions. You can ask it questions. It can give you answers. So information extraction summarization would be like, the LLM can generate the next token. The LLM can predict the next word. So how do we leverage this functionality to kind of, so let's connect our LLM to external database and see if it is able to capture that external database's data effectively. So what I'm talking about is RAG, basically retrieval augmented generation. Then image captioning and object recognition is a computer vision use case. So you can get, what if the patient comes with MRI, with head injury, and we can't do MRI because there is a iron rod in the organ. We can't do
We lost your Dolcy.
Dolcy can't hear you. Yeah, maybe power loss. Let's see. So any comments? So meanwhile, by anybody, now there is a question on trust issue.
Vivek, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. So as far as the trust issue, obviously there is that is the reason for up and coming technological adoption in healthcare. Uh, we used to think that healthcare and pharma would be one of the last areas to get deep tech disruption, right? But a recent quarters report research suggests that Gen AI may have maximum impact in healthcare, even compared to industries such as financial services or legal or manufacturing. So, I mean, it will definitely be one of the most impacted areas due to Gen AI, if not the most impacted area. So, other question I used to always have is that, okay, health and pharma needs, uh, FDA approval, let's say in a developed country like the US. But uh, I was told, or we have gathered that lots of healthcare and pharma workflows do not need FDA approval, and lot of health and care disruption can be done without regulatory agencies approval. So that means the AI adoption can't be too bad. Okay, anyway, Dolcy is back. I'll let her take over.
Yeah, I'm
So
really sorry. My
I,
electricity went, and I was so busy explaining that.
Dolcy, I have a question if you allow me. Hello.
Yeah, Riz, go ahead. Go ahead. What's your
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, Dolcy, if you can go back to your presentation, the slide which you were showing just some time back, the foundational
You
model.
mean this one? Oh,
Yep, I can see it. Probably you're not
this one.
sharing. Yeah. No. The foundational. Yeah, this one. Now, which, for example, what foundation model are you talking about here? Because the inputs and outputs, they look like all multi-model. So,
Oh,
what do you think is the base model or foundational model which serves the purpose?
no, the idea over here of a foundation, just to basically, like I told you,
Your voice is breaking. I don't know if it is only for me.
Your voice is breaking up, Dolcy.
Dolcy, your voice is breaking up. Maybe your new hotspot is intermittent.
1 second, sir. I'll just.
Yeah, I think now it's okay. Now it's okay.
It's okay now.
Yeah. So actually, the thing is, the reason why I'm talking about foundational models here, and it looks like a multi-model thing, is we are not looking at explaining or specifying a specific model over here. This is just to get the healthcare professionals to understand what large language models can do in that case.
Yeah,
Just
I agree. You're right. Absolutely, I agree that. But you have any example of that? Some kind of a model which does all? I don't think there's
yeah,
some
like over
foundation
here you
model
can
that
use
does that all.
foundational models, like you can use all the large language models that are available right now are pretty good at doing all of this. So these are like basic things. Multi, of course, would have differently,
For
but
example,
now
like, is there a model which can do also speech in addition to captioning and extra and retrieval and summarization and all those things?
Okay, can I answer this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so there are multiple models. Okay, let me give you a few examples. So when you talk about summarization or maybe text classification or maybe related to NLP, right? I'm talking about NLP right now. So there are multiple models released by Microsoft. Name is like Microsoft PubMed. You can check about it, and there are other model also came, like this model actually came in 2020, and 2022 actually another model came which is called SAP-BERT, and that model is really good as well. But again, these are large language model only, but you have to do little bit
Yeah,
of customization
yeah.
there.
But have you, like, I'm sorry, like, have you done also transcribing speech on it? Just out of curiosity, I'm asking, because I'm working on a model called Met 42, and I'm deep into it. So I'm just asking if anybody has information where in a single base model, it helps. I mean, it is able to do all those things which Dolcy is showing.
Okay, do you mean to say like you want to like you want some text to speech model?
No. One basic model, one foundational model which does all those things. Anyway, we can talk about it. I don't want to take others' time. Just go ahead, Dolcy. Thank you for the chance.
So I'm not sure who's the one who was asking this, but I understand that right now, maybe today we won't have like a highly dependent multimodal LLM, but I'm telling you, as in we go forward, we will get an LLM which will be able to do all of these things together. So that's what OpenAI keeps claiming, what Sam Altman keeps saying, that they're looking at AGI, and even 3 days ago, he gave a speech that I don't care how much money it takes to, train a language model, I will keep investing money. So yes, if we have people like that who are crazy enough to keep doing this, we will, get a model which eventually would be such a generative model that it will be able to, perform cross tasks, easily. So as of now, maybe not as many. So hence we have not heard of many. We have speech. We don't have speech and images, I guess, together, but we do have images and text together. So Gemini Provision, even GPT Provision, GPT 4 Turbo has vision capabilities. I think so. So yeah, so all of those things. So moving on, there are types of that we primarily see. So one is descriptive analytics, where you are parsing through patient history, documentation, clinical trial documentation, already existing documentation to kind of like classify or find out patterns or figure out new patterns or new relationships between variables. So descriptive analysis comes in there. So where you are going in depth for describing phenomena. Whereas predicting analysis is forecasting the future. So like preventive medicine, where we have wearable devices, we have smartwatches which can tell us if we are going to have a crash. So AI, so Apple smartwatches can make an SOS call to your emergency care provider the moment it detects that you might have a heart attack. So it's so capable. These sensors are so capable that they are able to monitor the data in real time and predict in real time.
So Dolcy,
Strategies.
your voice is intermittent. Dolcy, your voice is intermittent. Maybe you want to switch to the original hotspot.
Sir, actually, I'm using my phone and
Yeah.
I'm already sitting on the chairs of the building. I'll find a spot where I'll get internet.
Okay. So
Actually, there's a little
anyway,
disturbance today.
no, your original hotspot was fine for a while till you lost power.
Yeah, right now, is it okay? Is it better?
Right now it's okay. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Fine. I'm really sorry if there are any problems in the back. You can ask me to repeat things. I'll be happily to do so. Okay. So, like I was mentioning, prescriptive analytics was talking about, unearthing new strategies. So you can kind of like have comparison, evaluation of different techniques. You can hit and trial method you can use to find new techniques and all of those. And again, discovery analytics. Suppose you are looking to find new things or new treatment or a fresher perspective of solving existing problems. So in that case, discovery analytics will give you a fresher mind. So what you will be doing is you will be parsing through different kinds of data together to kind of like decide or find new patterns in the data. So it's all analytics is all about finding patterns in the data. It's just that what these patterns specify or signify matters and changes depending on which analytic style we are looking at. Okay. So before
Hello, hey, Dolcy, I have a question. In the
yeah,
previous slide, there was one term called prescription, like prescriptive analytics.
yeah.
So it is a new term for me. Like I know about a prescription which the doctor writes, but is it related to that or is it something else?
No, it's all about, so here analytics is kind of like analyzing data. So prescriptive analytics is about finding, it can be about finding new treatment plans. Prescriptive means when you're prescribing something, right? So it not has to be just drugs. It can be techniques, it can be lifestyle changes, it can be other sort of changes in your health and others. So those things also come into the prescriptive analytics.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
I hope I have answered you. Okay.
Dolcy, I have a question regarding what you just said regarding prescriptive analytics. I think I've seen applications of AI where they come up with a certain, let's say, the most aerodynamic design for an aircraft or something like that. It'll, the AI will automatically generate the blueprint for something like that that would withstand those technical parameters, when they specify these aerodynamic parameters, something like that. So it's kind of like prescribing a design. Is this something like this? That where like, you specify the problem and then it kind of comes up with a solution in a non-linear way.
In any which case, you will have to specify a problem, right?
Okay.
So basically, what happens is Prescriptive analytics is about making better, decision making. So you have to understand, descriptive is about describing things which have already happened. So finding patterns in the data which will help us describe a phenomena. Okay. Predictive is depending on the data and the patterns that we see, are we able to predict future events like those? Prescriptive would be how to find new decision making strategies. So what happens is hospitals and medicine, when it comes to patients and diseases, it's a very time sensitive issue. You have to find answers to questions, or you have to fatafat take decisions. So you have to understand that emergency care professional would be taking care of, like, say 20 patients in say 1 hour, and suddenly one car crash guy comes in and they're trying to survive the guy, but now this doctor has to make a decision then and there whether he should survive this guy or not, or whether the rhythm that you see on his heart, whether it's correct, to whether we'll be able to bring him back or not, or whether he'll survive it or not, or whether he'll pass away or not. Those decisions have to be made in a fraction of a second's time, and you can't blame later on saying that, oh, there was no time so I made a wrong decision. That doesn't work like that. So prescriptive analytics is, all of these analytics is to get the healthcare professionals ready before before itself, rather than letting them go and make blunders at the scene or at the time of criticality. We equip them with the whatever tools and swords and machine tanks that we have, you know through these, so that we are more better prepared to serve ourselves, right? All of this would help us eventually. Our doctors would get upskilled, so they will come and treat us better. Indian doctors, if they get upskilled, Indians will get better, right? So that is the whole idea behind these four kinds of analytics. I hope I'm clear.
Yeah, you're clear. I think I hope you touch on the ethics of this, because like imagine like a doctor relying on an AI prediction at the split second to make some really critical decisions. That sounds really scary.
Oh, you have to understand that medicine or healthcare as a field is a very stringent field. It doesn't let newer technologies in. So you see a lot of research going on in AI in healthcare, but you don't exactly see many products coming out of it very drastically, right? The advancements that you see in other domains, people coming up with, say, marketing analysis, sales analysis, and retail, consume e-commerce, and all of those domains are adopting AI very fast. But healthcare is a little slow in that way. So ethical considerations would come into picture, but then again, like I mentioned, it's an iterative process. Until and unless we don't develop enough, we can't say for sure whether this will work or not. So until and unless we don't do enough research to tell, I'm sure GPT-1 was terrible, right? GPT-2 was also terrible, but 3.5 took the world by a storm. So the whole point is that slowly and iteratively. So you also have to understand that us as people who will be developing this technology, we also have to adhere to those things so that the bias doesn't creep in the data before analytics. So like how they talk about bias in large language models, we have a lot of bias in human data as well, and it is bound to happen because human being didn't exactly know like 100 years ago that we'll have AI, so we should maintain the data in a particular way. So yeah, ethical considerations would be spoken about, but I'm not focusing on ethics here right now. This is just about the tech side in healthcare. So yeah, important questions we need to ask. So for a healthcare professional or anybody, basically, when we are talking about AI in healthcare, there are major questions that we need to ask, at least in 2024. So first of all is, what is our use case? Are we dealing with imaging? Are we dealing with clinical, administrative, or documentation or governance? What use case is there? Because depending on the use case, our available tools and technologies would change. Again, data availability and quality. So you have to understand, we should always have access to super high quality medical data, but that is not always available. We see a lot of imbalanced data as well. So we have so many people who are normal healthy living, but we have very less people who actually have the disease. So this is a one of the biggest imbalance class problems. And in medical data, people are not very keen on rapidly making synthetic data. So I recently went to a meeting, a neuroscience meeting, where a research lab for autism were displaying their machine learning techniques that they have been doing. So when I asked that professor, he's from St. John's Hospital, Bangalore, when I asked him that how do you handle the imbalanced data set, uh, do you oversample the imbalanced class or the underrepresented class? So in that case, that guy said that you do not oversample usually, primarily because synthetic medical data is not actual data. You don't know if that is the case. You can find or maybe tweak and twist the data a little bit, but then again, it is still synthetic. We can't really say if it is accurate. And if there is a bias in that data during oversampling or undersampling, if there is any sort of bias introduced, then we are gone. Then our model is gone. It won't work. So there is still that bottleneck is there to handle the imbalance class. So people kind of like spend a lot of time collecting data so that they have equal number of sets in both their classes. So that time spent increases because we have imbalanced classes. Again, regulatory compliance. So as of now, we don't see a lot of AI policy making, but like I told you, because people are venturing out and it is inevitable that AI will be disrupting our job market, governments would be forced to step in and come up with regulatory standards. A little bit on the ethical considerations, whether you're not defrauding the patient or you're not misusing your data or you're misrepresenting your self. So a lot of people will consider themselves chatbot doctors, I'm guessing. So what they'll do, once we have foundational models who are very good at predicting medical information, they'll just fix that model up in their app or in their personal website or whatever, and they'll act like chatbot doctors. They will, on the basis of AI, they will claim that they are medical professionals and they'll be able to solve your problems. So that range of scams will come in. So as we grow further, as we move with the technology, scams also change, so those kind of scams would probably come in. But yeah, again, regulatory compliance and ethical considerations will go hand in hand. If we don't have policy making, we won't have people always following ethics, which is very absolutely true, right? You and me might follow ethics, but not all the time. We might not remember it, or we might not have the time on the space to completely think about the ethical considerations. So yeah, again, clinical validation. So according to latest global health world health data, we see that there's going to be a shortage of medical professionals by the year 2050. So we will be in short of approximately 75 million medical professionals. So in that case, how would you clinically validate your data? Do you have someone readily available in that field of expertise? So when I was making the healthcare search engine, I was the primary validator. Because of my experience in 6 years of healthcare industry, I was able to validate to some extent whether the workflow is correct or not, whether the LLM is responding based on the data that we are providing it or not. So yes, clinical validation becomes absolutely imperative, so that so like reinforcement learning with human feedback, we need to tell models again and again. So many doctors will have to sit and verify whether the LLM answer is medically correct or not. So that clinical validation becomes a huge bottleneck. Integration with existing systems. So can we introduce AI to the already available medical devices? Can we introduce AI to the MRI machines, or maybe blood report like the places where concentration of bloods are carried out, cultures? Can we automatically integrate our current AI systems into these? Then user acceptance and training. So again, human accountability becomes a huge thing. People, why air flights, like flights or planes, aeroplanes can have been able to, go on air pilot, like autopilot for a very long time, but there is still a pilot and a co-pilot sitting in the cockpit there. So the whole point is that human accountability plays a huge role. People acting as, these AI, they deploy these AI models which will be acting like medical professionals, can actually lead to a lot of harm. So you have to understand that the user, the end user or the patient, understands what thing it is, that user is using, what this AI does, and what is the extent to which that AI is accurate. So these benchmarks, these accuracy scores and all of this, if you're building something new, in case in healthcare, like foundational models, if you're building foundational models, kind of like benchmarks and extensive evaluation is required. Again, scalability and sustainability is all about how can you scale the existing technology to like super specialty hospitals, and or then again chains of super specialty hospitals. Again, sustainability, it takes hundreds of billions of dollars to train a foundational model. So that dollars are spent in the electricity and the resources and the specialization, the experts required. So think about the carbon footprint of, let's say, ChatGPT 4 would have been. So that's a huge deal, given that climate change is inevitable and it is happening right now. We're all witnessing it. So yeah, sustainability also is a huge factor eventually, and it will become a huge thing, because if a model is not sustainable, it will be very difficult to host it in the future, or maybe like 50 years down the line, when climate change would be very disruptive. Cost and ROI, again, how much time do you have, how much do you have the capacity to spend, or that will depend on your use case also. So are you looking for a specific task? Let's say just MRI segmentation is your task, or whether you are finding a general model which is able to do multiple tasks across medical across healthcare domain. Again, risk management. So risk management would, so whether you are able to, whether there is actual risk to the patients or not, that is a very big thing. So whether your technique would cause problems. So risk management usually comes, we usually think that AI is not invasive. So when we talk about invasive, putting an injection or operating on a person is invasive. So AI might not be invasive, but AI deployed at robots, in robots or other machines, medical devices, can become invasive. So you have to have defined the scope of the risk and potential benefits and costs that will be on the patients or the participants of the study, or when you're employing that method. So all of that has to be kept into mind. And again, long term interoperability and standards are all about setting the stage for us, baseline across all AI in healthcare, so that a human being in future doesn't have to worry about thinking whether the standards are met or not. So like now we see a lot of news coming in that the content, the processed food content in India has a lot of sugar in it. So these things can be avoided if we have like a regulatory standard which is enforced across the world in a very strict manner. Okay. So going into in depth, so like someone had asked me if we'll be discussing the use cases. So let's talk about a few use cases in depth. So let's start with preventive medicine. So we have wearable devices like smartwatches, sensors. So these sensors can be deployed with AI models, specifically machine learning models, and which can in real time predict whether there is an adverse event happening or not. So like how smartwatches nowadays are able to send SOS messages to your emergency care providers that you're having a heart attack, or you were in a fall, you were in a car crash or something like that. So those kind of things would help us prevent problems beforehand, help us in personal monitoring, glucometers and all of those will help us in personal health monitoring. So that will be one use case. So a lot of sensor, edge AI, ML models and all of this will come into this use case. So if you in future are looking at wearable devices, you have to think about these three things that you would have to iron out. When we look about medical imaging, we have to understand that medical imaging tells us two things. One is the disease, it classifies the disease, and the other is the severity of the disease. So the imaging can actually help us look directly inside our person, right, or inside that organ. So it can actually help us predicting the severity of the disease as well. So the techniques that would actually be used would be computer vision, deep learning, and classification and segmentation. So why I say deep learning here is because traditional convolutional neural networks that you see as part of deep learning tech, you see they're pretty good at performing on images. So they do very well. We do have multimodal LLMs as well right now, but in spite of those, the CNNs have done a pretty great job, like, because you can see that if we use these machine learning models for, let's say, a specific task only, they perform really well. And computer vision, of course, to pass through different kinds of image modalities. Also, another thing to mention over here is that normal multimodal LLMs that you see, which have text and vision both capabilities, they're able to parse image formats, file formats like JPEG, PNG. Those are file formats, but when we look at medical imaging, you have a different kind of file format because these are high dimensional images. So that parsing requires a different pipeline altogether. So yes, we are yet to see a multimodal LLM which will be able to take in an MRI image and classify or segment it in real time. But I'm sure people are working on it, so we'll see that soon. Guys, any questions until now? No questions? Okay. Let's move on to another use case of administration. So hospital management systems can have like a holistic and ecosystem where you can have chatbots. So basically one hospital franchisee, maybe for a chain of hospitals, let's say for example Apollo hospitals, make their own hospital management system which has a doctor side and a patient side. So in that particular app, everything is there. The patient can talk to a chatbot to understand his or her disease better, to be able to track his appointments. So also track his reports, and then medical reports, like track testing and follow-ups and upskilling and learning, not upskilling, sorry, understanding the disease and care, treatment plans, all of those things can happen in one place. And also for the doctor's side, every you can give pharmacy orders from within that app. You can give follow up appointments. You can track the history of the patient, you can track the file of the patient, whether the tests have been done, where are the samples gone. All of those things come in the hospital management system, and AI can actually bind them all together. So binding them all together can be done by the agentic AI workflows, where we are basically giving human like reasoning to our large language models. Again, documentation, so clinical trials, medical reports, medical coding, like I mentioned. Again, you use computer vision, deep learning, and all of those things. So computer vision, for a lot of times computer vision might not be directly used, but you see people going into clinics, right? And those clinics are fit with the cameras in like different locations. So those cameras will record everything, even the body language, the patient, whatever he's saying and everything. And that information can be together transcribed. So text can be extracted, different parts of the videos can be passed differently for identification of specific disorders. So movement disorders, if you see like tic disorder or Parkinson's and all, they have a lot of very repetitive hand movements. So if you record those movements and you calculate the frequency of the time the hand moves, you will be able to classify whether it's a Parkinsonian disorder or another kind of movement disorder. So computer vision, deep learning, and all of those will come here also. But here, large language modeling can also come in, because medical reports or summarization, text classification, semantic analysis, and all of those things are much better handled by large language models now. Before I explain this, let me just check the chat once if anyone has questions. Oh, sorry. Okay. No questions yet.
So
All right.
Dolcy, just a time check. So
Yes, sir.
I think you're
Uh,
doing fine. Yeah, we are fine. Yeah.
yeah, almost over. I mean, the reason why I know this can be a little heavy for computer scientists as well, because too many medical terms have been, going about. So to give everyone an idea what an entire clinical pipeline would look like, okay, and how we can help with AI, how AI can help. So first of all, there is general population. They can do personal health monitoring through wearable devices like smartwatches, glucometers, etc. etc. Okay. Now, those wearable devices would maybe detect an adverse event like heart attack, accident, fall, blood pressure going really high, or etc etc, things like that. So that adverse event detection would tell the wearable device or the device would tell the person that you have had this event, you should visit your emergency care provider or your general practitioner, or you can contact them for further information. Then the person can go on for telemedicine chatbots to understand whether this adverse event is actually very serious, or was it a glitch, should he take some decisions. So he can go on to a telemedicine app, get some idea from a general doctor, and then decide whether he has to have a specialized visit or not. So in specialized visits, you go to the hospital, so the hospital management system will help you track, help you understand your symptoms. The doctor will, it can employ AI to track your medical history, all of those things, scheduling appointments, all of that can be done at the hospital with the help of AI. After the specialized visit, the doctor will, give the patient certain tests. Okay. Suppose you had a minor heart attack like event. So the doctor wants to check your blood, your BP, your cholesterol, sugar, everything. So now edge AI basically can be deployed at the end of these sensors. So heart recording is done through ECG machines, right? So ECG sensors can have edge AI. So automatically they will track whether, how much problem is there, whether this rhythm is a problematic one, whether this patient has a heart problem or not, immediately that time in real time. And with the help of AI, we can actually consolidate all of these specialized machine answers in like fraction of minutes maybe, and take a consolidate, like we can consolidate all of this data, imaging, histopathology, and medical history. So histopathology here is blood tests, Just give me a moment. Yeah, so AI can help us consolidate data, imaging. Histopathology is nothing but your fluid testing, so blood reports, urine analysis, and medical history. So the time taken for us to physically or manually do all of this is extensive, but AI, if deployed on machines, can directly help us integrate them all together. Then, with the help of precision medicine, we can aim at personalized medicines, and again AI can come into picture there, and we can follow up using remote monitoring. So again, wearable devices, telemedicine, chatbots, and all of that for follow-ups. Do you have any questions here?
I mean, we have a lot of work to do, really. So AI interception can be massive, really.
Yes, that's absolutely true, actually, because when I was also looking up for this presentation, I realized that there are so many places yet that AI has not intercepted for healthcare.
So, Dolcy, can you give us some research material which you have gone through and which you have found it helpful for us to read through and understand? Because you got so
Yeah,
much information
I
here.
can definitely do that. I can share it on the group, but I'll be honest with you. Most of these things I've written from my own experience. So
That shows in your speech, in your talk, because the way your confidence actually shows that you have been working in it. It's not like just a bookish thing. You have been working in it, and that's why you're so confident in explaining things, and that's very good for us. But for us from the AI field, we don't know many things about medical, although we
yeah,
love to be in that. So it will be really helpful if you can share us some material or
yeah,
even
yeah.
this presentation probably. And if somebody is recording this video and if we can get this video, very good.
Absolutely right. So, we are CellStrat AI Lab community. We do have a special interest group in healthcare AI research. So, Riz, I know you're part of the Bay Area community, so I'll add you to that special interest group as well for healthcare research.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah, we do have. I'll definitely share this PowerPoint with everyone. And yeah, so basically, I consolidated this information from the market reports, actually, because I needed figures and the current trends mostly. We know what most techniques and tools and techniques are. So you would be able to understand the AI part of it. But how do you, figure out where do you use the AI, right? What is capable, what you are capable of using the AI. So wearable devices, maybe we can't go directly now because we don't have the sensors available free of cost to us, but we can definitely try adverse event detection because we have so much data available through clinical trials and other data sets online that we can use. So yeah, it's all about deciding what you want to do. But yes, domain expertise comes as a essential or a crucial thing. It will become like a big thing in the future. So you have to have domain expertise, but it will happen slowly. So if you start reading, aram se you will be able to build up. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, thank you for that. But if it's not like uh,
No,
very
I'll
private,
definitely
like
share more.
can I know like what is your background? Because you're so
So
confident both in health related issues and also in AI.
I'll give you a brief history of my background. I have completed my bachelor's in neuroelectrophysiology. So basically, neurological sciences, neurosciences basically from Christian Medical College, Vellore. So I was a paramedic by profession, and I was working there handling diagnostic treatment or diagnostic tools for nervous system disorders. So my work was to look at see patients on a daily basis, conduct tests on those, and give an answer of that test. So give a diagnostic report of those tests. So if you've heard of EEG, EEG has been going around for a very long time now. So electroencephalography, electromyography, sleep studies, polysomnography, all of these tests are required to identify disorders of sleep, disorders of nervous system, disorders like epilepsy, Parkinson's, dementia, all of these things, right? So all nervous system disorders, how do you identify those with the help of diagnostic tools is what I used to do. I was so fascinated by computers. Like when I was a kid also, I was fascinated by computers. So I remember we conducted a research in my final year, and we were analyzing MRI data from these people. So I'll give you this idea. It's a very interesting use case. These guys have a stroke, okay, loss of blood to a particular part in the brain. So because of that loss of blood, they have no other issues. They are fine, mentally fine, everything is fine. But because of just that issue, they are not able to see the straight lines correctly. So if you're sitting straight and you're looking ahead, you will see everything straight, right? Vertically correct. The beams of your pole, the pillars of the walls, pillars will be straight. But for them, it is always at an angle. Okay, so they'll always have a tilt, and it is very funny because they will tilt their head also like that, thinking that if they tilt their head, the world will become straight. So you will see these patients going about with tilted heads. Now tilted heads is a very big problem in a lot of other nervous system disorders, but it is the most major problem in the kind of disease that we were looking at. So how do we decide? Now these people, we are not able to identify, these people are not able to speak English, or we have to find a way to kind of automate this process to at least help us, move forward in the history, in the journey of diagnosis or diagnostic medicine. So we conducted a test. We went about calculating the angle at which their heads were tilted. So I did that personally. I went to every patient. I put a bucket in front of them. So that was known as a bucket test. We put a bucket in front of them, and I would rotate the bucket in different angles and then note down the angles. So I will do that for 10 times for every patient. And like that, I did that for 100 patients over a span of 6 months. I consolidated that data and their MRI data. And then one computer scientist was brought in. Literally 5 minutes he took. He designed support vector machine model and he put it on the data, and we got all the lesions, all the boundaries in like some time. And I went there 6 months collecting data like a fool. So that's when I was so intrigued by AI that I then decided, that okay, fine, this is something that I want to do. So I completed my post graduation in artificial intelligence from IIIT Delhi. So I did that after this. So that's how I'm here in CellStrat, coming from both the backgrounds. So I've done research in computational neuroscience. So I've tried to use data analytic methods, statistical modeling, hypothesis testing as part of my research, and vice versa. So I'm using all of those information and all of that learning here in my computer science workflows as well.
That's a great story, Dolcy, there. So
Thank you so much.
So Dolcy is a very interesting or rare combination of healthcare expertise as well as AI developer. So she's a first-class Python AI scientist and developing our CellBot AI stack, which he is about to demonstrate shortly.
Yeah. So let's move on. Okay, I'll go a little fast. So this was just in depth of those different places where AI could be, used, like predicting of falls, heart failure, glucose monitoring, arm straps for saturation. Pill cam is nothing but to see whether, you're taking the correct pill or not, because US FDA regulations have now specified that every pill will have an inscription on it. So those inscriptions can help you identify what pill that is. Okay. So imaging. So, equipping MRI machines or X-ray machines with AI, and detection of breast cancer, basically detection of anything on X-rays like pneumonia, COVID-19, and all of those things. Skin conditions have already been carrying out. If you see Google Health, you will see a lot of these models being already there, open source. So you have to understand that a lot of traditional AI goes into all of these. We are looking at generative AI use cases also. So generative AI use cases would probably come in where you are looking at multimodality, or diagnosing a disease through multimodal inputs. So patient history, blood reports, and imaging. So we want a holistic answer, right? So we would have to look at the holistic reports as well. So generative AI could maybe come in there, so that it is able to handle multimodal data. So moving forward, I won't go into depth over here. Just an overview of the available large language models and things that you see. So although there is a scarcity of models, so I know you see that there are so many models here, but trust me, these are not even half of the models that we see otherwise for other general tasks that are readily available. So for medical specific models, not many are there, and we still have to see, so recently Gemini was introduced, I think, a few days ago by Google. So that model has been shown to, have 95%, 91% accuracy on the USMLE benchmark. So USMLE is nothing but the entrance exam for post graduation in medicine for conducted by United States government. So it's considered one of the most difficult medical examinations in the world, and very extensive. It takes 8 hours. There are multiple papers. Each paper has 8 hours. So 8 hours of exam where you sit and analyze the entire patient's case and give a diagnosis then and there. So 91% accuracy on that data set was also amazing. But yes, as and when we grow further, we'll see better accuracy, better models being adapted. So other use cases that you guys can actually keep into mind. So there's something called IoT system monitoring. So ICU bed monitoring, like I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, it was 1/10 of the current costs. So because it becomes easier, adverse event detection and all of these things can be integrated within the model itself. It becomes easier. The human being doesn't have to go on and check the monitor again and again and again. That thing is gone. And also because of IoTs being there, you can introduce like remote system monitoring as well. So remote system monitoring can actually reduce the time people take, or doctors or professionals take to come and monitor your vital signs. Again, let's look at the internet of nothing, the same thing, IoT system, but for medical devices which are connected to healthcare information technology setup. So basically ECG, EMG, all of these devices that I was mentioning about, what if we equip them with AI itself? So, and that could give us a real-time monitoring on all of that. I hope that is clear. So there's also another thing that has been seen now, connected ambulances. So basically now that we have a better AI model, we have better tech infrastructure, and we also have better connectivity, which is like 5G networks. Connected ambulances would actually mean that paramedics, when they're getting, accident cases, they can in real time make better decisions on revival decisions depending on the history or the sensor data of the patient, etc., etc. And again, medical multimodal data integration becomes very fast. And yes, all of this together will drive research at an alarming place. But again, nothing is perfect. So we do have a lot of problems with AI in healthcare. So biggest thing is the high dimensionality of a biomedical data. So for an example, I'll give you one MRI image is almost usually a 3 Tesla MRI image. I'm not even talking about 7 Tesla MRI, okay? A normal 3 Tesla MRI image is 3 GB, 3 to 4 GB in size, one image. And it is a 4-dimensional array. That is how that image is saved in our computers. So imagine dealing with one data point which is 4 GB in size and training your data on millions of these. Because you have to understand, if it is 4 GB in size, it is so huge that you have to find interdependency between the different parts of the image. Right? That is how you make a decision on MRI. So you have to be holistic in that nature. But meanwhile, you are sort of screwed also because there is no other way, right? So you have to deal with high dimensionality. So how do you deal with that? You kind of like find feature engineering techniques, or you find these ranking orders and all of those things that you see in ML and other techniques. Maybe those can be introduced here. Heterogeneity is again the fact that we have multimodality in medical. We have text, we have images, we have scannings, we have blood reports, we have electron microscope images, concentrations, cultures, blood cultures, sputum analysis, RT-PCR. All of these things are multimodality. How do you parse them all together? A doctor is trained over the course of, like, say, 10 years to understand all of this data together and then take a decision. So how do we get that for the AI? Again, then temporal dependency is very important. Progression of disease can happen either in less than 24 hours, which is considered an acute event in medical terms, and it can take over a span of months, which is a chronic event. So to give you an example, an accident would be an acute event, right? But Parkinson's would be a chronic event. So at every different stage of the year, so Parkinson's is a long term disease, so it happens over the course of many years. So when you look at that, first year the symptoms would be different, the medical imaging would be different, and the blood reports and everything would be different. But the doctor is so trained, looking at so many Parkinson's patients, and talking to them, getting their history, that the doctor gets a fair idea whether this person can or cannot go on to develop Parkinson's. But that comes with experience, that comes with physical real life experience. Can we get that experience to AI or not? So temporal dependency is a big bottleneck, because imagine 4 GB data at one point, and then 2 minutes later you're collecting another 4 GB data point, and so on and so forth. If you go and keep on adding this over the course of many people, it becomes exponentially huge. Again, finally, the sparsity and irregularity that we talk about is that we have more number of people which are healthy, and I'm glad that is there, because of course we don't want people dying everywhere. So yeah, more number of people which are healthy, but not as many people in each disease bracket. So maybe all the diseases together, we might have people who are maybe equivalently unhealthy, but Parkinson's may be one fraction of it, dementia would be one fraction of it, traumatic brain injury would be one fraction of it, diabetes would be one fraction of it, so on and so forth. And also data availability. We don't have a lot of medical data because hospitals are not very keen on letting go of their data. There's a lot of private or personally identifiable information. So medical data can be heavily exploited. So you have to understand that if you know if a person is going through anxiety, you would be able to, if you're so if you know that I have anxiety, and you have my wearable device ka information, so you have my smartphone or my smart watch ka information, you will be able to in real time understand when I'm the most vulnerable to sell your ideas. So yes, medical data is critically personal and confidential. So in that sense, you don't see hospitals being readily accepting AI, and of course that is one of the primary reasons why we still see a lack of widespread adoption. But yes, as in, it is inevitable, it will happen, but when is the matter of, it's the question. That's all, guys. If you want to contact me, you can reach me out. These are my LinkedIn and email IDs. Any questions, guys?
Wow, that was an excellent presentation. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad.
So Dolcy, yeah, are we also doing demo?
Yes, yes, sir. Just quickly, I'll show you guys what I know. Even though my presentation seemed really great, but I'll be honest with you guys before I show this demo. I think this is my baby basically, and I'm building it. So if you have any ideas about better how we can improve this, you're most welcome to reach out to me and let me know. So rather than just like thinking in your head that you don't like this feature or something, please reach out to me personally and tell me about the features so that I can bring it to you. So this is our healthcare search engine. So we are trying to kind of like build a pipe. We have tried to over here build a pipeline which will help us consolidate data from different sources. So as of now, we're looking at text data from two major sources, which is PubMed and ArXiv. So these data sources are nothing but collection of research papers. All right. So PubMed has a collection of extensive peer-reviewed research paper. And what do you mean by peer-reviewed? Peer-reviewed means that it has been, verified, cross-verified, by experts and scientists in the field and well documented and well supported in the current literature. Whereas archive is something that anyone can upload their paper to pre-register as long as they are submitting for a peer review process. So before you submit your paper for a peer review process, you can upload it on archive as a sort of a documentation to showcase that this is your research idea and nobody else should क्या बोलते हैं उसको patent infringement या copyright infringement shouldn't be there. All right. So let's see. Let me. I like for some reason I like the topic of depression. So let's look into the topic of depression. So let's see how archive looks. So what it does is right now I have entered a topic. Based on this topic, my tool will go to archive and pull the latest 100 papers. Okay. Now I can talk, those papers will be combined or represented in a vector form in my vector database, in our vector database, and now I can chat with it. So can you list the types of depression? So the archive pipeline is a little slow. We are going to be adding the streaming functionality pretty soon. So by the end of next week, you'll find this pipeline also giving you faster responses. So I'll show you how PubMed responds as well. But let's see what the model gives us. So this is nothing but a simple rag. So as you can see, it pulls the relevant paper from archive. So it has used that paper as a basis of the answer, and it gives you the common types of depressions, and these are the common types of depressions, and also gives you a reference in the end. So this reference is clickable actually, and you can go to that page of archive directly for now. So this is the full text of depression that they're talking about, the which the model used to answer. So of course, this full text has a lot of history, which gives you understanding of depression, and also again and so forth. So you can actually look at different papers. So you will get references also. So whatever paper the LLM is using to answer your question, you will see that. And in the next 2 weeks time, we will give you the functionality to be able to talk to those full text papers as well. Okay.
One query I have. Sorry to interrupt you.
No worries, no worries. Go.
It's like you, let's say I have a list of 10 PDF in my archive database somewhere into my local desktop. Okay. So you just uploaded those 10 PDF somewhere into the central repository, and your large LLM model would be in a position to
Yes.
to get the answers from those 10 PDFs and share in front of you, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have another, exactly for that capability, we have this another tool called knowledge base miner. So here you can choose the number of, you can click or drag PDF, PPT, CSV, doc and text files, and even a URL. So even a website you can add, and you can talk to your documents.
Yeah, I have done similar kind of project in LangChain in my
Oh yeah.
master's program in IIT. So that
Oh,
is why I can record this system.
yeah.
Okay, Dolcy, what base model are you using for CellBot?
We are using GPT-4 endpoint preview, GPT-4 turbo endpoint.
Okay.
So
Then one
that means
query.
you're paying for the service from GPT-4.
Yeah, OpenAI service.
Yes, Suresh, that's right. It's a
So
paid model.
like just an idea, Dolcy, why don't you like try, if you have probably some resources over the long run, why don't you try hosting your own LLM?
Vivek sir, please answer this. He's the boss of our company.
Yeah, Riz, that is on the roadmap. So we are also working with Anthropic, LLM in AWS Bedrock for many of our projects. So we'll be bringing a private, for data privacy reasons, a private LLM capability with either Llama 2 or Llama 3 and Anthropic Claude 3. So that is also on the product roadmap here. So keep it, because here the data is going to OpenAI. We might also do a private LLM in the AWS cloud, yes, with
Yeah, that's
Anthropic.
the obviously, Vivek, that's the basic problem, like what Dolcy was also specifying and reiterating again and again. The problem with adoption here is the privacy of the data. Now we can build as many systems as we want, and as technical guys, we can, everything is possible, but the problem here is the our medical friends and the hospitals and the staff, they will not share their data, or they will not use the systems that we build unless and until we provide them surety that the data will not leave their premises.
Yes. So we are doing custom solutions for US clients as well, where they have their own AWS cloud and everything remains in their AWS cloud using the Bedrock LLM orchestration of Anthropic. So those projects are already going on with many clients. And here also, we are going to implement a private option where data will remain in our AWS cloud and not go to OpenAI. This CellBot is still a public health search engine. This is not yet mining your hospital's literature, let's say. The other products you were showing, knowledge base miner, you can upload your custom data, and that will definitely need a private option. But this is a public health search engine. In fact, it needs to pull data from PubMed. So here there is no private healthcare data being uploaded, if you notice.
Absolutely.
Hey, Dolcy, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
What?
So, as we asked here types of depression and it listed some 30 types. So it was able to, just a second.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah. So it was able to list the names of those and also the description, right? So like how did it like you said that it is taking information from 100 papers. तो हो सकता है किसी में कुछ और दिया हो, किसी में like there is some other information. तो उसने कैसे उसको मतलब is it summarizing?
So I'll tell you what.
Information?
I'll tell you what. What we have designed the CellBot in mind is, so initially when we were thinking, we wanted to do something real time. Okay, you decide what would be your topic and we let us pull the data real time. But the way we have designed CellBot is that even though we are pulling the data real time, whatever data has been pulled up till now since the launch of CellBot will be available to you. So all of that data gets added to the same vector DB. Okay. So the idea is that every day if we have 10 new queries, we are getting 10 more data, 10 new 100, 10 classes of 100 papers each. So maybe 1,000 papers every day. And we'll keep appending it for now. This is the idea now, until we are able to, find a much better or robust solution of hosting the data itself. Because you have to understand PubMed and ArXiv, both of these are public repositories, but they also have limits on the number of pulls that you can make every second. So right now, to keep into that and also to follow all the licensing agreement guidelines of so these are all open source, but they have guidelines of how to use them. So just to stick to those adherences, we have kept only 100 papers, keeping in mind that every time we have new queries, we'll get more new 100 papers and so on and so forth. We'll add more data sources.
So just to add to what
Do
you're
we
saying,
have a ranking?
Dolcy,
Yeah.
like
Just continuing in the question, do we have a ranking also of the papers, like which is of more priority based on the questions or number of
Yes,
kind of questions you are having?
that is internally handled by your
rack system.
vector search. Yeah, like when vector search is done, we are handling that. That if it is needed, so the LLM will make a call to the to the external repository to see if it needs to extract new papers or not. Otherwise, it can just work on the
Already
existing
extracted
database.
ones in the rack.
Yes, so you have to understand that robustness can only come. So when you are short of money or when you are short of certain resources, you have to find robustness somewhere else. So in order to not compromise on the quality, so I understand that this seems a little, different right now. But trust me, we are adding more and more features. So you will see this turning into a better, more equipped one-stop solution for all your healthcare and pharma needs. So in order for us to deliver that
Excellent.
quality, we
Yeah.
had to set up guardrails. So these are known as guardrails, that kind of like set up checks to guide our workflow and to keep our workflows in check.
Right. It has information like cache because it has to
Yeah,
retrieve.
memory and all. Yeah, we are storing the memory and everything. So session memory gets stored. So your entire chat history will
Mhm.
get stored to get dependency. So what if you want to ask a question about a follow-up question on the previous answer, right? So something like that. To enable that, yes, memory is also maintained.
So one more question, Dolcy, like how are you generating embeddings here? Like what
So
base models are you
we are
using for
using
generating embeddings?
we are using V8 vector database. So what we do is we take the data, we chunk it in real time, and we send it through OpenAI embeddings model, and we have this V8 vector base that we have hosted on our AWS. So that vector DB can convert all of this into the data into vector representations and store it for us, basically. And we have indexing, so we have llama index to kind of like index the PubMed and ArXiv pipelines. So PubMed and ArXiv are coming from very two different data sources. PubMed is heavily peer reviewed, well accepted in the community, whereas ArXiv is all about preprints and uploading your papers so that your idea doesn't get stolen. So in that cases, we are not letting PubMed and ArXiv overlap, because we can't mix legit, well documented, well supported research information with something which might or might not be, right?
So how are you keeping these two databases separate in your vector
So we are
database?
not keeping it in separate databases. We are using separate indexes. So there's something called llama index. So if you add
Yep.
data to one particular index and query from that index, it will only query from that data which is available on that index. So it's like having table of contents. So I have one table of contents for all the chunks for PubMed, and I have one table of contents for all the chunks of ArXiv. And when I'm selecting over here PubMed or ArXiv, I'm telling my model which the table of contents to pick to go to my data. I hope that's clear.
That's clear. Thank you.
Yeah.
One query I'll ask, like I know you will get those data on a real time, so that would be in a text format somewhere. Okay, let's say I have image, let's say I have CT scan image or MRI image. Okay, and now I wanna do some analysis on those images. How we can read those images, forget about the OpenAI or GPT, or we have
So
Gemini.
you can look at you can look at convolutional neural networks. So we go to traditional AI. So GPT and all are new AI. Okay, new era of AI, which is able to do extensively a lot of things. But
Okay.
the traditional AI, which was machine learning, basically small models like the one that I mentioned, support vector machine. So
Understood.
support vector machine that we applied was on MRI data only. What we did was we collected MRI data from 130 patients, and then we applied that decision boundary making, and we used some hyperparameter tuning. I'm sure that guy must have done, the computer scientist who joined us. But yeah, that's how it came about to be. So traditional AI all can actually, so right now for medical imaging, in my opinion, traditional AI is far superior than your generative AI, because we don't, so except medical Gemini model and maybe MedPalm 2 and all of these models are not capable of handling multimodality medical data. They are able to handle text data, right? So text data can be handled very well by any large language model, because टेक्स्ट पे ही तो बना है ना वो मॉडल. टेक्स्ट डेटा को ध्यान पे रख के ही तो वो बना है. इमेज को ध्यान में रख के तो बना नहीं. Like we did not keep in mind images, right? So image modeling would still have a long way to go. We don't have large language models for MRI or CT scan yet, but yes, we will soon have. I'm sure Google would be working on one of those.
Because I'm working on this image sensing part.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is why I felt personally lots of challenge to secure the image data into the text format, especially working on the 3D model. 2D model anyway, it's a bit easier, but 3D, and if you are going more number of
it is very difficult. You're talking about 3D images. I dealt with so MRI, functional MRI becomes 4D or 5D.
Yes.
5D means you have to parallelly check at the time also.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with those files? So yeah, we
So,
need.
just a heads up, Dolcy, like how are you going to work on that kind of data, multidimensional data, which you're talking about? Like how do you store that? Any ideas how you have done it?
So a request or an advice to everyone as well, and something like that. So as of now, I am not looking at radiology use cases, and I'll tell you why. See, radiology use cases would require me to go and validate data at different levels. Okay? And validating data becomes a huge, bottleneck, a challenge per se. And I don't want to spend time spend time doing that, when right now I can actually accelerate my understanding of AI through text and other things. We do have x-rays which can be converted into jpegs, right? And we do have some techniques through which we can extract some information from the MRI and send that to the models. So I am as of now not looking at solving radiology use cases for multiple reasons. First of all, computational maturity. I have to be that mature as a computer vision scientist. Second, I need to be able to validate that the model is giving me the right answers. So we need trained experts, radiologists to validate that data. And third, where will I get the data from? There are not many MRI data sets available readily. And also, there's a huge problem of machines being different. So if you go from one MRI scanner to another, a lot of things change, okay? So even in statistical modeling, when we were analyzing images through MATLAB or SPM vagera, even in then, if you change the computer, so if I did it on my laptop, the values of the answers would change. And if I did it on my professor's laptop, the values would change. So that is the problem of computers as well, that you are employing so many calculations that the error creeps in, right? You have a very small error in say first calculation, but that error keeps getting multiplied, and it gets exponentially added to your problem. So that is how you see, so that dependency is also there. So maybe in the next 2 years time, once I have become a little bit better at this, I will definitely have a crack at it, because I really like radiology and it was very interesting. You can find a lot of things, and you can find a lot of things in early detection actually, things that are not visible to us to the naked eye. It is very easily detectable using computers, because brain changes start happening very fast, but we as human beings are not able to detect them correctly. So you have to, getting into radiology would actually be really fun. And once that happens, I'm guessing healthcare adoption, AI adoption would become much easier, much more simpler, because that is the most heavy duty data that we deal with right now.
I think large image models or large vision models are coming up. At least there would be secret projects at Google or OpenAI working on that. I also heard from Andrew Ng's presentation. I was in Bay Area in September. He was saying that large vision models is the next in line after large language models. So I'm sure the big tech is at it, and we should soon see more powerful large vision models as well, just
Yeah.
like we have seen language models. So I think GPT 5, 6, 7, we should start seeing improved capabilities of vision analysis as well. But so far, yeah, text is the best. For vision, the traditional vision transformer or detection transformer still outperform multimodal LLM. And needs custom, incremental machine learning or fine tuning on vision transformers. Any final questions, folks? In interest of time, excellent session, Dolcy, and you can see the engagement as well.
Thank
Folks,
you.
any final question?
Yeah, hi Vivek. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Ankit.
Yeah, I want to add something. Actually, you are talking about the pharmaceutical company, like pharma company. So pharmaceutical companies also is already done. Like I have done some prediction pharmaceutical company for TIS, tablet inspection system, and the PIS blister inspection system. So like whatever the medicine we are getting, it is going through the blister inspection system, where we are checking like the shape of the size, like foreign particle, and if there are any foreign particle available, their labels, foreign particle, like if there are any broken tablet available. So there is lots of data available in that, like there is a shape and size, like there is like round tablet, rectangle tablet,
Yeah.
gelatin tablet, the color tablet, combi tablet. Combi tablet is very difficult to use for computer vision, but we have done that. Okay, so we all have done this like computer vision and like image analysis here, neural network with that, and it's like working fine. We have already published that paper, so I think it's already more than 4 years ago. I have done that paper.
So yeah, that's
Yeah,
actually interesting in the sense that traditional AI has been around for quite some time. So I
yeah.
wanted
Well,
to
like
actually,
vision is working.
yeah, vision is working longer than that, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to actually start my presentation today by saying that, surprisingly, what we're discussing right now, it has come a full circle, because when people thought about AI, they looked at medicine, got inspired, then went on to make AI, and now we've come back and, using AI to analyze healthcare.
I hope I you have to work on like what is the formula of medicine and how to tackle that formula. Like in India, like if I am talking about like paracetamol, it is like likely available. You are talking about the closing tablet, okay? It is available, but in foreign they are not like written paracetamol to anybody, but I don't know why in India it is allowed. Okay, so lots of things is like in comparison of India, in comparison of the West, there are lots of tablets which are there, like they have don't write down, they have like
So
yeah.
Ankit, probably the reason why Indians allow a lot of medicines is because our sanitation conditions and our environment is very different. We as a community, Indians as a community, have been exposed to bugs, heat, tropical climate, and all of those things. So heat and tropical climate comes with their own problems. So you have heat problems, you have ticks, and you have these worms and insects coming and biting you, and all of those things you see in a tropical setting. So if you see from America's perspective, our geography or climate would match the South Americans more compared to the North Americans, right? So there, because of them being very particular about sanitation and stuff, them not regulating these medicines would be very fatal, because they will have adverse reactions to these medicines, because they have not built immunity. So what medicines do, most of the medicines and say antibiotics, they develop antibodies. And paracetamol and all of these are generic medicines. But the way we look at it and the way they look at it comes from two different perspectives. We are a developing country who's moving to being developed. They are a developed country who have set up all of these after, do. So what we are doing, Americans have already done, learning how to regulate, learning how to control people, learning how to come up with policies, learning how to come up with new tech. They've done this many years ago. Of course,
Mm,
AI is new, but yeah.
yeah, but in India, like we are in like ancient tradition, we are following like naturopathy, homeopathic, and
Yes.
Ayurvedic. In that condition, we are not taking any medicine. Whenever
Hmm.
we are got fever, we are just taking the bitter and we are using some wet putty and all those in that
Yeah,
manner.
yeah, yeah, that
But
worked for us. Yeah.
yeah, so you don't have required to such type of things. I hope that. So we can also work on that area like Ayurvedic and homeopathic and
Hmm.
naturopathy side, so that India will be, made our own product so that it can sell all over the world.
I'll tell you what. This can go into a very. I'll
Long
just
topic.
say
Yeah.
one. Yeah, 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 I'll just say one thing. Indian government, I don't want to comment out anything, but not government like the current government, not like that. But in general, the governments of India are right now tackling many other critical social issues rather than, deciding to protect their indigenous flora and fauna. So what happens? All of these naturopathic ingredients that you see, like haldi, you see pudina, you see tulsi. All of these are found in our religion. It is found in our culture. So even cross religion, if you see, it is found. So it's not like an Indian Hindu won't have that, or Muslim won't have that, or Christian won't have that. If that person is from India, they will use pudina, they will use tulsi, they will use haldi, any which way. But our government has not been able to capitalize on these things right now, because there's still a lack of divide, right? There's still unexplored areas in northeast, there's still unexplored jungle somewhere in the middle, and there's areas which are not being exploited yet. So yeah, it will take time. People are waking up to it. So yes, I'm sure we'll see. Like I told you, necessity is the need of invention, is the mother of invention. So when the need arises that people will not have it any other way, then government will have to wake up and take steps.
Yeah, I have read somewhere the IT Madras is
Uh,
working on
let's
some turmeric
do
medicine
this
for that.
in interest of time. So
Yeah,
let's
we have
move
another
for
webinar
an offline conversation. So excellent discussions, audience. Thank you for engaging intensely and fantastic session, Dulcie, as usual. Let's continue the conversation offline in next set of webinars. Thank you all for joining. Thanks a lot, Dulcie. Fantastic work. And archive, PubMed, both are looking great. And the reference paper citation is also working. So the team worked last night, late into the night, to launch some of the things you see there with the archive. And the product is looking really good now. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you,
Thank,
everybody. Thanks, Dolcy.
thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Bye bye.